It's summertime, so it's time to take you and your camera to the shore. Time to get your feet in the sand, get a little sweaty, fight traffic, look for parking, but it all pays off in the end when you grab those magical, colorful summer sunset shots. Hi, I'm Chris. This is KGS Photo. Thanks for checking out the channel. Welcome back if you're a return visitor. This video today is going to be about getting sunset shots at the shore. And I said summertime, but it can be any time. But summertime, you do seem to have the most color and the most vivid experiences going on in the sky. I prefer to shoot my sunset shots at the Jersey Shore, where I'm at, in the fall, in the spring, in the winter, in the off season, because summertime is just a nightmare. When you do visit the shore for your sunset shoot, there's a handful of things that I would say I'd want to keep in mind, just so that I make best use of my time, especially if you're coming from far away, if you're not right near the beach. You don't want to just show up and be totally misguided. So the first thing, you would want to worry about, and I've gone over this in other videos if you haven't seen them, I think it was the last one, Google Maps. Know where you're going, know the location you're going to, know different spots, maybe even have scouted out virtually different locations so you're not just going straight to one pier or one little cove or one jetty or one little beach location. You're going to want to have in your head a few good spots that you think will turn out and you'll want to investigate. So once you get there, if the place is littered with people and you want empty shots, you'll have other locations to go to. If you do want people, then good, go to the spots with all the people. I prefer to have shots with not too many people. And so in the summertime, especially in New Jersey, the beaches are a nightmare. Now, if I go in the winter, in the spring, in the fall, not so much. A lot better, but sometimes the color's not as vivid. So it all depends on what you want to deal with. The few things I'd want to think about when I'm shooting sunsets at the shore is, well, I always would shoot in bracketing, but I pretty much shoot in bracketing all the time for my landscape stuff. Bracketing would be, if your camera has it, and most cameras, modern cameras do now, bracketing, you shoot the exposure that you want, and then the camera will either give you, 1 or 2 stops high, 1 or 2 stops low. I usually shoot in brackets of 3 or 5. So I'll have the perfect exposure, hopefully perfect exposure, an exposure high and exposure low, and then if it's 5, it's even sliced down even tinier. Especially when you're shooting sunset, you're shooting straight into the sun or at least into a bright sky, and your foreground might be kind of dark. So the bracketing is going to make it a lot easier for you to merge everything if you wanted to in Photoshop later, or if you wanted to use HDR, or just if you wanted to play around, especially in Lightroom. There's so many good settings to bring up your shadows and bring down the sky. Bracketing, I would say, would be the best thing to do, shooting sunrise, sunset, any kind of very bright over light and a very dark, possibly dark foreground. Another thing I do when I'm shooting sunset at the beaches, at the back bay, I want to get there early. I usually make a day of it, so you get there crazy early, hang out, do whatever you need to do, but you want to be there well before the golden hour of sunset, so you'll want to be there at least 1 hour to 2 hours before sunset if you have a tighter schedule window, and then don't leave when the sun drops below the horizon. Stick around, because the best colors, depending on the cloud deck, the best colors usually come after the sun's well below the horizon. So you don't want to just run away back to your car and head home. So plan to spend a lot more time than you think sunset would be. Most sunset golden hours are an hour. That's why they call it that. So a couple hours before, a couple hours after, get the dusk and the twilight. Another thing is, once you've figured out where you want to shoot, don't be stuck to one location. In that location, if that makes any sense. So if you find a dock, or if you find a marina, you find a jetty, you find a beach, sometimes, especially if you get into the shot and you really want to capture the sun and the clouds and the colors, you might just lock everything down on the tripod and just shoot that one angle over and over and over and over and over until the sun's gone and the color's gone. That's fine. I mean, remember to do that, but also take the camera, maybe even off the sticks, but move the whole setup wherever you can. Get different angles. Shoot higher on the sticks, shoot low, go straight to the ground. If you have a drone, do your drone stuff. I have no drone stuff. But move the camera around. Don't just get locked and focused and narrow vision, tunnel vision into that one location, one angle. Move the camera around. You can get a lot of cool stuff. Another thing you want to think about with shore photography, it might be great to just have a shot of the sun on the horizon and the water or the sand, but try to look for interesting stuff in your foreground. I mean, it's all basic composition ideas. Went over this 2 videos ago, composition elements, if you want to look at that. But try to find something to put in your foreground. Sand and water leading up to your horizon is great, but is it anything that exciting that other people haven't seen? No, not so much. So look for boats in a marina, look for jetty rocks, look for silhouettes of people fishing, silhouettes of people surfing, well, I already said boats, well, whatever. Look for stuff in your foreground, that stuff that you would find at a beach scene. And one other thing you should have, a piece of equipment, if you're shooting landscape, especially if you're shooting landscape into sunrises and sunsets, bright light coming at you, are ND filters, neutral density filters. There's a bunch of different kinds. The kinds I have been using recently are very dark, just an old one dark filter, makes the bright daylight pretty dark. This is great for freezing your waves, making everything look silky and dreamy and milky, the water. It's great for waterfall freezing too, or blending, not freezing. Another one would be, and this one takes some getting used to. I don't know if you'll be able to see that, but it's a half neutral density filter. So the sky would be the ND filter, the dark, and the clear would be your ground. So that's really good to bring down the sky. It's kind of weird. It kind of really brings down the sky. So you do have to do a lot of editing to just make it a little more natural looking, so I don't use it too much. And then this is a newer one. It's a filter. It's a neutral density filter that can change its settings. Hopefully you can see that it gets darker. So you can actually get it super dark and then come back out. It'll go several stops in either direction. So that's pretty good to work with. Sometimes you get weird banding when the sun, if you're shooting straight into light. Whoop. So neutral density filters are a great thing to have, especially when you're doing bright sky, but dark foreground sunset stuff at the beach. Okay, now let's take a look at some examples of my shore sunset shots, and I'll go over the shots and tell you what I saw and what works and what didn't. Let's look at some examples of taking sunset shots at the shore. This shot was not taken in the summertime. You can see the snow on the ground, but if you can get yourself on a fishing pier, get elevated, get a different point of view. This is a nice little shot from the Ventnor Fishing Pier in Ventnor City, New Jersey. Wintertime, this was January, I think, but with this shot, you can get the coastline, get the sun going down in the distance. If you can't get on the fishing piers, go next to it. This is in Ocean City, New Jersey. And when you're alongside a fishing pier, don't just shoot straight into the sun. I try to break it up a little different and get the sun coming through the railings of the fishing pier, and then I'm getting really nice harsh long shadows from the sunset. It also doesn't always have to be the ocean. It could be the wetlands, the back bay. This was down in Flagler Beach, Florida. They have a great preserve, and the colors just were amazing when the sun finally got down below the horizon line. The clouds really reflected all the colors, and the boardwalk and everything else was just perfect colors of pink and purple. Getting back to fishing piers, and this is in Belmar, New Jersey. Getting the sunset in the distance. The sky wasn't too amazing, but walking away from the fishing pier, getting into the jetty, putting on my neutral density filter on my lens and blending the ocean waves as they come in and out, making it very like ghostly, almost like a fog around the jetty rocks. And again, you don't always have to shoot at the sun in the direction of the sunset. Look behind you. Sometimes, usually most of the time, the sky opposite of the sunset has great soft pastel colors. So again, Belmar Fishing Pier in New Jersey. This is all shot in the same day. I was over in the rocks before. I kept that dark neutral density filter on and just blended the ocean waves as they came in and out, so it almost looks kind of wispy, like clouds or fog. So I said, get on top of the fishing pier if you can. If you can't, get alongside it and maybe put the sun through it. Then I also said go way far away from the fishing pier. Hopefully you can find yourself a nice fishing pier wherever you live, because you can do wonders with it, sunrise and sunset. Now this is the fishing pier, I think it's in Keansburg, New Jersey, but sunset over the bay. You got the sun rays shooting through the legs of the pier. Let's see, we got another shot here. And then this is stepping back from underneath the pier, going all the way to the far side of it and getting the sun shooting through and coming right at the lens. Find yourself a marina and take some sunset shots, because you can do some great stuff at a marina. All the different angles, especially if you have access to the going up and down the docks. This is Belmar Marina, so I don't think you have access, or at least I didn't go up and down this day. Get all the boats and the reflections and the color and the shadows, lines and shapes, forms, something interesting to lead the eye in, not just the bright, beautiful sky or the orange, yellow colors of the sunset. If you find yourself a boat that's been stranded, that's always a great opportunity for a subject to shoot. This is in Seaside Park. This boat's been there for a few years now. So, get the boat. Sky was pretty overcast. Shooting this boat. Now, back to ideas. Don't just lock your camera down and shoot away until the sun's gone in one location at one depth of field, at one distance to your object, your subject. Try moving around. So this is in front of the boat. I'll move to the back of the boat. The sun came out a little bit, so I went to the back. It's lighting up the back of this boat. And then go back to the front of the boat, but walk a couple yards away and shoot with some distance. Here in Ocean City, New Jersey, putzed around for a couple hours during sunset up and down the boardwalk. Stayed near this end so I could get that sun coming over the boards and through the Ferris wheel. And again, it's about adjusting your line of sight. Don't shoot everything at your height of 6 foot, 5 foot, whatever. Move the camera up and down, left and right. Don't just stay fixed in one position. This works out great with lines, the colors, got people walking on the boardwalk in Ocean City. The shot I was waiting for when we were in Ocean City was to get the sun coming through the Ferris wheel. And again, we get silhouette and the colors. The sky was a little milky, so it wasn't too vivid color later on in the evening. Taking that camera and moving it some more. Literally, I was just a few benches over a couple shots ago. And then I went back and I went below the boardwalk next to the ramp that gets you onto the beach and shot a low angle of everyone walking here in Ocean City on the boardwalk. With the sunset side light coming across. Lighthouses. If you got yourself a lighthouse nearby, shoot it, and shoot it with the sunset, because they always make for good stuff. This is the Barnegat Light in Barnegat, New Jersey. Always good for a sunset. You can line it up behind the lighthouse itself, or if it's a low enough tide, you can go out amongst the jetty rocks. You can get the sun shining through the jetty rocks, you get great shadows, you get the green moss or algae growing on the rocks, the reflections in the water if it was a little calmer. Look for abandoned beach equipment when you're shooting at the shore. People leave a lot of stuff. Flip-flops I've gotten great shots of. And here's a little beach umbrella that was left leaning up against a dune fence. And if you do take it this way, remember to move. Physically move yourself and the camera in and out, closer, further away. Landscape to portrait. Again, if you have a lighthouse nearby, or you can find one, go to it and get your landscape sunset shore photography shots. This is the Cape May Lighthouse down in Cape May, New Jersey. Walk the trail a little bit in the park. You get some great reflections if the pond is still, and this evening it was, thank God. And while you're walking to and from the main location you're interested in, don't forget to keep your eyes up and keep looking around for other for other shots. This was on our walk out to get the shot I just showed. Got this with the sun set behind the lighthouse. Well, very much set. Now it's just mostly the post colors. Hopefully you live near a shoreline. You can get your butt to the beach. You can go to the bay. You can grab those magical sunset shots, the summer sunset shots, or spring or fall or winter shots. It's always good. And when you do go, try to remember to shoot in brackets. Give yourself 3, 5, 7, 9 bracketing stops up and down from whatever your exposure is going to be. It'll make it way easier, especially when you're shooting into a bright sky. And you can combat shooting into a bright sky if you shoot with ND filters, especially if you're doing landscape photography. You should always have some kind of ND filter, whether it's the half ND filter I showed, the adjustable ND filter that goes up and down and stops, or the traditional just blacked out neutral density filter if you want that really creamy ocean water, or you want to make the back bay nice and glassy as a boat goes by. Also try to remember to plan ahead and know where you're going and have some other locations if you're going to a place that's going to be super busy. Come before. It's golden hour. You should maybe give yourself an hour before golden hour and an hour after golden hour just to see what's going on. You don't want to miss out on anything. And try to make your shots interesting. It all comes down to composition. You don't want to shoot straight at the horizon with the sun dropping into the ocean, or dropping into the bay, or dropping into a river. It looks pretty, yeah, it's great. Nothing special about it. Try to get something in the foreground, whether it's boats, people, silhouettes of people, of boats, lighthouses, anything nautical. For the love of God, you're at the shore. Take some pictures. Get out there and have fun. I thank you for watching this video. If you're all the way through to the end, that's amazing. And hopefully you've learned something, or I've given you some ideas, or I've at least entertained. Now, I will beg you for subscriptions, liking, and hitting the bell notification thing, because videos come every once in a while, hopefully every couple of weeks. Thanks for sticking around, and until next time, just go out and shoot something.